All right, let's get started. Thank you all for joining. We do these every month to give you guys an update on what we're working on here at Ironfish. So first, I'll start off with talking about some of our new hires. So we actually have 3 new hires joining the team. One of whom is Craig, and I'll let him do his intro in just a minute. Then we have Mira joining, who is an intern, and she's going to be working with Jason and Derek in particular. And then we also have Yajun, who joined as well as a senior engineer. She is currently not here, so we'll do her formal introduction next time we do this update. But Craig just joined us as our general counsel. Could not have been better timing. His background is amazing, and I want to give him a moment to introduce himself to all of you guys. Craig?
Great. Thanks, Elena. Great to be here. Great to meet everybody here virtually. So my name's Craig Tim. I've joined Ironfish about a month ago. I spent several years at the Department of Justice. So I worked as a federal prosecutor and then at headquarters, leading a money laundering section out of headquarters, and then spent the last several years at Bank of America doing anti-money laundering work and sanctions work. And I think one of the things that brought me here and brought me to this space, as I think about crypto and privacy and everything else, I saw from sort of my seat, thinking about financial crime all the time, in addition to all of the sort of benefits around privacy related to fundamental rights and freedom and everything else, which is so important. I really came to see the lack of privacy in crypto as a major cause of a lot of the crime that's happening today. So if you think about all the frauds and scams and theft that's rampant, so much of that is because as a community we're putting so much information out there on public blockchains that then the bad guys take advantage of it and do that. And not to mention, that's just scammers, not to mention the sort of threat from various governments around the world who will take that information and try to do bad things with it. So I really see, in addition to privacy enabling freedom and human rights and all of those great things, I actually think it can also be a mechanism to help prevent crime and corruption and other things. And so, I think Tornado Cash is given us a vehicle to sort of tell our story and in an audience with the government and otherwise, and attention on the issue that I think, hopefully we can take there, which is, sort of some maybe questionable actions by the government, but use it as an opportunity to educate and help them learn and take this forward. So super excited to be here. If there's anything else, Elena, you want me to cover, great.
Oh, it looks like Craig just cut off, but he was almost done, so I think it was actually pretty great timing. But yeah, just to reiterate, so Craig joined us as general counsel in light of things like Tornado Cash news. Craig is basically here to help us bolster the argument that privacy is innately a good thing for crypto. It is a necessary thing for crypto. And those efforts are actually going to reduce crime rather than add more to it. So could not be more excited to have him join on board. Next up is Mira. Mira joined us just last week, I think, actually. So this is our second week here at Ironfish. So Mira, if you could just introduce yourself for a tiny bit, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I'm currently, as Elena mentioned, interning here at Ironfish. And for me personally, the reason that I'm really excited about joining Ironfish is, again, in the privacy space, especially with the recent news when it comes to blockchain, is just so important. And I worked at a couple of other bigger tech companies, never in the crypto space, but I've just seen how it can be, and I'm really excited to join the team as well.
Awesome. Next up, I wanted to give some stats about how well the testnet is doing. So currently, we have roughly 6,100 nodes online. These stats are publicly available. You can go check them out yourself. So this stat in particular is at stats.ironfish.network. So you can monitor things like where are people hosting their nodes from, some information about those nodes, as well as how many there are and what versions they're running. So all this information is publicly available. Currently, we have roughly 150-ish, 1,000 transactions per day. Again, these stats are actually publicly available. These stats in particular are on the Block Explorer. So if you go to explore.ironfish.network/charts, you will see those charts and how many transactions we've had over time. I'll post both of these links into the chat so you guys can check them out. Again, I'm kind of very proud of these numbers. Ironfish is running more zero knowledge proof transactions than any other chain. In comparison to chains like Zcash, for instance, they did roughly like 900,000 shilling transactions since Zcash launched. We do that, every few days. So we're definitely stress testing the system quite a bit. And again, thank you so much for anyone and everyone who is running a full node, sending those transactions, mining. You are helping us make the product better. And again, a lot of the issues that we have encountered dealing with optimization and usability, honestly, we would not have found them had we had lower volume, such as Zcash or Monero. Like we have, I think Monero has roughly 10,000 transactions a day. We have magnitudes bigger. Again, this actually really does help us find all of these issues and make Ironfish better. The other announcement I want to make is around Mainnet. So Mainnet is a conference that's happening in New York. I will be presenting there on September 23rd. It'll be on a panel with someone from Zcash and someone from the regulatory space, talking primarily about privacy and crypto and the importance of privacy in crypto. We'll also announce when we'll go to Mainnet. So we're still trying to figure out the exact date. But we are going to be launching next year. Our original plan was to do it Q4 of this year. If you look at our roadmap, it's slightly outdated, but you can kind of tell that some of the efforts that we are working on currently, like multi-asset, and again, that very acute focus on optimization, like the Wall 2.0 work, has added on a bit more work than we originally planned. Again, we want to make sure that Ironfish is a good product at mainnet launch. And so we decided to focus on launching next year, not this year. And we'll be revealing kind of a more updated, more granular roadmap for you guys next time. So up next, we're going to have several people talking about the projects that we're currently working on. So just a quick recap. We'll have Derek talk about some of the Gossip updates. So we did a pretty big update on the Gossip protocol itself. We'll have Jason talk about the Wallet 2.0 work. We'll have Rohan give an update on the multi-asset effort. And then we'll have Jason again talking about some of the stability efforts. So with that, I'm going to give it away over to Derek to talk about some of the Gossip updates.
Thanks, Elena. So last month we deployed our changes to our block propagation model. If you remember from our prior update last month, we had just rolled out, I think, our changes to our transaction propagation. So we've been really happy with the bandwidth improvements we've seen from that. But I think we would still like to see more improvements in the actual time it takes to propagate blocks from node to node. And I think as a result of some of the bandwidth improvements we made, it may have caused certain cases to increase the time it takes to propagate blocks. And then I suspect that some of the recent performance issues we've been having have been making that seem a little bit worse than it could be. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but we're still monitoring the changes. We're at least happy with the model going forward. So our kind of next step is to iterate on it and refine performance and stability issues. And as again, we'll talk about shortly, I think our focus is going to go into making the node perform better and making sure that in particular, the node is responding to requests for example, new blocks or missing transactions and the like, rather than dropping those requests or timing them out. And that should help bring down the latency as well. So next, I'll pass on to Jason to talk about some upcoming changes to the wallet, which should also contribute to improvements in performance and stability in that area.
Hello. Yeah, so a bunch of you have been in the Wallet 2 beta channel helping us test it, but for those that don't know, Wallet 2 is a refactor of our existing wallet, which we're calling Wallet 1.0, with a couple major improvements. One, it will be much faster to create transactions. Two, it'll be significantly faster to check your balance. And these improvements will actually lead to the whole node experience being better, because those tools are actually used by a lot of different commands like deposit and deposit all. So just as a comment about how this is going, we were getting pretty ready to kind of release it, but what we found is because we were loading all of your nodes and transactions kind of into memory, there were some people who reported, well, there's some memory issues reported, as well as some node startup issues reported. So we're getting pretty close to launching this. So I just want to say you can use it now, but it's probably better to wait till launch. If you want to help us test it, you can join the Wallet 2 beta channel. But we think that this will essentially make the whole experience better once we ship this very soon. We're hoping to get it out within the next couple weeks. And then from there, I think Rohan is going to give an update on multi-asset.
Yep. Thanks, Jason. Yeah, so I've been working with Matt over the past a little over a month on some of the multi-asset efforts. As you know, we're trying to update Ironfish so you can bridge assets from other chains and create arbitrary assets. So some of the notable updates for this project are that we updated some of our circuits and proofs. So we've gotten a prototype working where you can now create arbitrary assets, mint arbitrary assets, and then actually spend some of these coins. So we've been writing some integration tests, and we've been able to verify that we can actually create mint and spend some new assets. So over the next couple of weeks, Matt and I are going to be working closely together to clean up some of this prototype work and then start focusing on some of the burn transactions as well. Cool. I will hand it back over to Jason, who will be talking about stability.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people were basically experiencing stability problems in the network. Just a couple of those, our overall memory usage was extremely high. Many users were crashing because their heap was growing too large. The node was using too much memory, and Ironfish is terminating itself. Other issues that we recognized are people would make deposits and they weren't getting mined. And then there's other issues like just in general slow sync speed. And if you are a miner, you would also struggle to mine sometimes because the time it would take to construct a block would be too slow that you would lose out on the block. There's a lot of issues that we're actually tracking. We've actually pivoted a decent amount of engineering resources to focus on these issues. So we do know about them. We care pretty deeply about the experience that Ironfish users face when they use it. We don't like that the experience is degraded when users encounter these issues. So we are kind of focusing efforts on that. I mean, another common one is the block explorer would be out of date or the pool would go down. That is a common complaint, that the pool goes down. So we recently found a critical bug in our RPC layer that was crashing both the pool and the block explorer syncer. Not to promise that that is all the bugs, but we are attempting to kind of dedicate resources to those right now. So those fixes will essentially be a drip feed into each release. So don't expect one release that fixes all the problems. These efforts will generally be ongoing. And I also want to thank some developers on our team, like Derek and Matt and other people. They have put in a couple of nice CPU and performance fixes, which have brought both our memory and our CPU usage down. So thank you for that. And look to the update notes that we put out in our announcements channel for more information as we get those fixes out to the community. So thank you very much. And then I am going to actually let Adi actually talk about a topic that is very relevant A lot of people have been asking about GPU mining, so I'm going to let him kind of comment on that.
Hi everyone. Yeah. So as for the past few weeks, we've all been interacting and you've shared your feedback regarding GPU mining. So for those who are not aware or not active on Discord, we have been the official pool and the other pools up until very recently only supported CPU mining, right? Which is the normal CPU. And two pools, ZK Work and Edge Pool, have developed the ability to use a graphics processing unit, a GPU, for mining. The difference is a CPU is relatively easier or convenient. A GPU is more costly and it also performs better. It has a better hash rate and stuff. How this affects you is it enables people to be more efficient in participating in a pool, be it in either of the pools. And a lot of people have shared their feedback that the official pool does not have the option and they have to choose either of those. We love them for what they have done, by the way. So based on this feedback, we are going to soon announce a competition where you can make an open source contribution on developing the functionality for the network for anyone to adapt and enable a GPU mining option for their pool. So more details on that to be shared soon on the announcement channel. So kindly stay tuned to that. And more to that, I would add is thanks again, ZK Work and Hpool for enabling the option. Because as you all are aware, the Ethereum has had a major upgrade. They have now moved from proof of work to proof of stake, which means they will be using much less GPU miners. So in case you had such a setup or someone who did, we would really appreciate you introducing them to Ironfish so that they can join the pools, the ones that exist and support GPU mining right now, and support the development for the official pool so that everyone can start using GPU to connect with Ironfish. Thank you.
And then Lawrence, if you want to mention.
Sorry. Yeah, I was about to ask if I'll now request Lawrence to take up and talk about.
Thanks, Aditya. We appreciate everybody's. We understand that seeing the GPU mining come in for people who had been CPU mining was definitely a challenge, and so we appreciate everybody's patience as we adjust, and also we thank the miners who have come up with those solutions. That's really incredible. My update's pretty quick. It's just around our hiring, and it's pretty similar to previous updates. We are hiring engineers and a marketing person. So for my team, for the engineering team, we are looking for both actually 3 types of engineers: backend engineer, front-end engineer, and cryptography engineer. So somebody who would be working with zero-knowledge proofs and this kind of thing. We are, if you know anybody that is excited about the space and has engineering background and wants to get into working on a L1 network, we absolutely would love to talk to them. So you can apply through our job site, and we respond to every application that comes through. For marketing, we're looking for people that have ideally a great crypto Twitter presence and are good content creators and good at creating a marketing strategy for a crypto company. So there's plenty of those folks out there, and we'd love to talk to them if you know any of them as well. With that being said, we're going to do a little bit of a different format at the end here. We have our Q&A channel here in Discord, the monthly Pulse chat. And we would actually like to take some questions live. So, the previous monthly pulses, we've been just sort of fielding them as they come in. We'd like to leave a few minutes for people just to put in whatever questions they have, having heard everybody speak, and respond to them live as they come in. So if you have a question, hit up the monthly pulse channel, and we will answer now.
Yeah. So we have a couple questions in here.
You can raise your hands now. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we have a couple questions actually that we can take from the chat that I'd like to repeat because there's been some answers there, as well as for the recording itself. But I think the first question asked earlier from Null is, Elena, do you have some thoughts about Huobi delisting Monero Zcash and other privacy coins and how can this affect Ironfish? And I think, Elena, if you want to take this one.
Yeah, so I already kind of started to answer this question in the chat as well, but I'll kind of reiterate. So I think right now what's happening is that we as a crypto community are still digesting the US sanction news around Tornado Cash. And we're still trying to process what that means, not only for privacy projects, but for DeFi projects in general. So this is actually something that I've been seeing as a conversation topic for DeFi projects like DYDX and Compound and Aave. They're having questions around, in light of these sanction news, what is the overhead that is necessary from these projects to minimize criminal activity? So honestly, the fact that the U.S. sanctions happened the way they did has had a pretty big ripple effect on all crypto projects. And I think in terms of Huobi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing correctly, delisting privacy coins, I think my kind of assumption is that a lot of other countries follow U.S. regulations. Sometimes, most of the time, U.S. regulations are by far the harshest. And so I think the U.S. does influence how other countries think about these other coins. So we are a U.S. team. U.S. regulators are by far in my opinion, the hardest to kind of sway. So right now our efforts are primarily to work with other teams, work with other GCs, work with other kind of collaborators in the space to focus on educating and informing U.S. Regulators and policymakers around the benefits of privacy. So, in Craig's introduction, for instance, Craig could not be a better person for us to join the team. He kind of mentioned that in his background, he actually used to work on the Bank Integrity Unit, both the Bank of America as well as the Department of Justice. So DOJ's Department of Justice. So he is very acutely aware of how do regulators think and what their priorities are. At the end of the day, U.S. regulators are normal people who want to protect consumers and want to protect U.S. citizens. They have really good intentions in mind. So right now, we are putting in a lot of effort to, again, talk about the benefits of privacy. That privacy is actually good for national security, not the opposite of it. And for what it's worth, I think our efforts and the efforts of many other projects, in my opinion, are starting to resonate. US, Treasury finally gave some guidance around, some of the innocent people that have been affected by the sanctions of Tornado Cash, which I think is a good sign. So again, it's a pretty complicated problem of, regulators around the world, not just the US, are getting nervous about privacy. But realistically, we cannot have a world where crypto is going to be this, universal payment system without privacy. That it has to live together, and so it's kind of inevitable that we are going to have a privacy solution. We just need to figure out a middle path that is, comfortable for regulators to kind of accept it. In terms of how it affects Ironfish, we have always been about, every Ironfish wallet has a view key. View keys can be used to provide audits. We're doubling down on that message of, we're building Ironfish for good people, normal actors who want to use crypto safely. We're not building this for criminals. And so we're kind of doubling down on that message. One thing that is a bit far off, but we are building Ironfish to be the privacy layer for all crypto assets. One of the things that we are going to be doing in order to get there is to support bridges. So bridges is one way that we can actually put in controls for who can use Ironfish. And for full transparency, we are going to be working with some of the chain analytic tools to figure out, how do we put more controls on these bridges to minimize criminal activity. And things like this, do resonate favorably with policymakers because, again, genuinely do want to protect consumer while making this ecosystem safe. So it's kind of a long-winded answer. Obviously, it's concerning that people are reacting negatively to privacy. We are putting a lot of effort into this. I think privacy is inevitable in shape or form. So I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but it's definitely top of mind for us.
Yeah, thank you. Next, I've seen this question asked by a bunch of different people, but Arushka asks, if Mainnet is next year, what will happen with the testnet? Are there any changes planned? And I think I can kind of answer this one. I think we're not planning to change the testnet. I think the testnet is accomplishing the goal that we want it to accomplish. It's helping to create transactions that are stressing the network. We want to test like high transaction throughput. So I think our plan is just to kind of continue it right now. And just a bit of information, even when we launch Mainnet, testnet will always be a thing. It'll obviously, like all networks have like a testnet where they can kind of test consensus upgrades and things. So I don't think that there's any plan to, ever not have a testnet. But right now we're not planning to evolve like a testnet phase 3 or any such changes with new challenges, so to speak. So I think this next question will be for Elena. I've seen a couple people ask about this, but will there be news about the ambassador program?
Yeah, so the ambassador program was launched a while back. Honestly, we're still kind of struggling to figure out how to effectively use the ambassador program. I'm not sure if it was as successful as we initially wanted it to be. Again, I'm saying this out of full transparency. So going forward, we'll make announcements for how to, how to deal with the ambassador program going forward. Yes, I mentioned the ambassador program now. So, sorry, it's just the comments are coming in. We'll kind of announce a way forward for the ambassador program fairly soon. Looking at phase 1 in comparison to the ambassador program, we actually have seen a lot more content contribution from phase 1 than the ambassador program. Again, this is just out of full transparency. So I think we have had higher expectations around it. So we'll be kind of closing that out fairly soon. And we'll make sure that everyone is rewarded as we promised. And we'll make sure that people are, they feel appropriately kind of compensated for their efforts. And I think like for us in particular, we'll figure out different ways to engage with the community in terms of content contribution.
The next question, there's 2 questions that we're going to merge together. I think this one is also going to be a good one for Elena. We're a comment about kind of like the Ethereum merge. So 2 questions are is Ironfish considering moving to proof of stake like Ethereum has? And the second question is Ironfish approaching Ethereum miners to mine Ironfish since Ethereum has moved to proof of stake?
Yeah, so Ironfish right now is proof of work. I think we've seen at least one person who said they did move away from ETH proof of work to Ironfish, which is pretty cool, honestly. A lot of Ethereum miners actually did have GPU mining, so I can see that being, applicable here. In the long term, like why did Ethereum move to proof of stake? Well, they moved to proof of stake because they had years of distribution, and they wanted to make a solution that was friendlier for the environment. If you actually look at proof of stake, there is some additive benefit for block finality, for instance, but the block times are not faster than proof of work, for instance. So the scalability aspect is kind of sometimes alluded to proof of stake, but it's not rightly so. So for Ironfish, in the long-term future, I can see us making the move to proof of stake for the same reasons that Ethereum did. This is not going to be anytime soon. I think proof of work is actually by far the best thing for Ironfish right now. If you look at some of the other proof of stake projects that have launched, with proof of stake right off the bat, unlike Ethereum, it's a lot harder to get validators and stakers into your system because you need to have this initial problem of distribution. And for Ironfish right now, anyone can mine Ironfish. You don't need to buy coins in order to stake them. You can just open up your laptop and do npm install -g Ironfish, and you're good to go. And I think that's actually a very, very powerful thing for Ironfish, that anyone in the world with just a computer can participate in the network. So I think for foreseeable future, it'll still be proof of work. We might have some much later plans to move to proof of stake, but it'll be similar to the way Ethereum did, which is after years and years of distribution with proof of work. But yes, we do definitely welcome all the miners who want to mine Ironfish, who have previously mined Ethereum. Cool.
That's all the questions, I think.
Hey, we're good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Great seeing you all this month, and we'll do this again next month.
Thank you for joining, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Everybody watch
Awesome.
Elena at Mainnet.
September
Big
23rd.
news.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great weekend. I think that's it. Bye, everyone.